Hello everyone, welcome to 30 Minutes Learning. Today we're going to discuss about functions in SAP UI5. Last 4 videos we discussed about these 4 contents. So before jump to controller, we need to know about functions. Then only we can utilize our full controller functionalities. Then only you understand how to use that controller fully. Okay, so let's jump to functions. In this video, I tell you how to define this function and how to call this function. Then function with arguments, like we can pass some input to function and perform something, then we can return. And scope of variables, so two scopes there, one is local scope and a global scope. So if that local scope we can to access outside the function, if you define the global scope any variable, then we can use that variable inside the functions. So while we working, you can easily understand that scope. Then next we're going to discuss about the default values. So in this function with argument, if some arguments if missing while call, if you define the default value, then this missing parameter it's taken by the default value. So this one we're going to discuss. Then it finally we're going to discuss about the return functions. So if you use that return keyword in the function, then we can store value in some variable. That function it returns something, some values. Okay, let's jump to our web IDE and create a new project for our function test. So right click and click that new and select that project from template, and now you just select that SAPUI5 application, click next. Here just giving a function name, so this is a project name, it's a function, and namespace dev, click next and finish. So in this project, just expand this folder, function for project folder. Then inside the web app, just expand that web app. So you see that controller file. So in this controller file you see that view one controller.js. so here only we're going to create a functions. So before creating a function, we're going to create a one button. Whenever user click that button, then that function it will trigger. So we're going to create a button. So inside the content we're going to create button. Okay, so button text add, and event name called unadd. Okay, just save and copy this, press event. So this event keyword based, we're going to create a one functions. So this is a controller file. Inside on it, this is a default function. Whenever our application it's run in Fiori Launchpad or in this web IDE anywhere, so this init function only trigger at a initial time when loading this application. Okay, this is a default function. So just giving a command and put a function name and use that function keyword, then open curly braces and close curly braces. So this is a function definition. this is the function name and function, and in this parenthesis you can give up any arguments, parameters. Okay, so in this curly braces you can write your block of code. That code, whenever this honored function calling, that time this full code it will execute. For example, um, now it's just giving a log. Okay, console log. So function basic, just to save, then click that function project folder, then click that run button, select that index.html file, then click OK. Okay, now you see this button we created in this view, right? So this text is add, so this is a add, and whenever we click this button, then this event it will trigger, this press event. So this press event name, we have that one functions, so this function it will trigger. Just click that F12 button or right click to inspect your page. Okay, clear that console. You see lot of options. Select the first option, console, then clear console, then it will look like this. Okay, then click this add, then now you can see we have that some logs. So similarly we can do some functions. So whatever code we written inside the function, it will trigger when you click this button. Okay, this is a basic. So this is a function, and button have that press event, that's why it's calling. So instead of press event triggering a function, we're going to create another one function, that function called inside this add function. Simply we're going to create another one function. Okay, this function name, just we can give fun, and giving a function. Okay, so this is a function definition, this is a fun. So here we're going to define some variables. Variable a, we can give a value 1, and variable b equal to 2, and variable out. So here we can add this both variable, okay, a plus b, and finally we're going to console this out. So console log out. So it's very simple, just addition function it will trigger. So now I create another one function, but whenever I click this button, okay, this add button, it only trigger this function on add, but in this on add it's now it's empty, right? So how we can call this fun function inside the on add? So we know that definition, how to define this function. So now I tell you how to call this function. Use this keyword, then only it's allowed to calling a function, because this is like a local scope. This scope under we have a lot of functions, that's why we use this functions for calling another functions. If we create a function inside any functions, then you don't need to tell this keyword, you can directly call, but this is outside the function we creating a name, right? So that's why we need to use this keyword. Okay, so this is calling function calling method, and this is a function definition. Okay, simply just save and refresh our application. Okay, clear that console log and click add button. Now you see it's a 3, so 1 plus 2 value it's added as a 3. Okay, now we know that basic function creation and function calling. So next we're going to use that argument with functions. So this second step now we're going to do. So now we have that some local values, right? So instead of this local value we need to giving us some dynamic values, like if user need to pass a value as a dynamic. For example, here I just giving a value 1 and 2 in the function calling falling places. I just remove this function definition place. Now you need to giving a value related variable here. This is an argument called. Okay, so A comma B. Now our error it's gone. Now this value passed from this function. Okay, we can giving us some different value 5 and 2. Now it's a value 7. Just refresh, I will show you. Just clear this console and click add. Now you get that value 7. So now you understand we can pass the value. Okay, this is argument with functions. So we can do something little dynamic. Go to our view. Here we're going to create a 2 input and 1 output button. Okay, so label. So here text, it's a input 1 and id. So it's not id here. Input, here we need to giving a id imp1, and then next just copy this label again, then give this text input 2 and id input 2. Finally we're going to display our output. So this is a final output. So we're going to use text id out. Just save, refresh our app. Okay, now if you click this button, value print in the console, right? Instead of this console we're going to print our value bottom of the button. Okay, so this is next we're going to create another one label called output. Output and input id out. Just refresh. I little bit change that code. After a button, we're going to create another one label and input. So like this. Actually, this output, it's mesh with add button. We can use vertical layout, then it will align properly. So if you don't know about vertical layout how to use, then go to SAPUI5 SDK, then click that API references, then here just type vertical layout. So here you see it's this is a class. So last XML video I explained about this, how to use these classes and how to define in the XML view, right? So similarly we're going to define our XML ns and L and define that layout class. Then this is a vertical layout, so we're going to use L and vertical layout. So inside the vertical layout we put our all content. Now just refresh. Okay, now everything it aligned properly. Okay, so now we're going to go back with our controller file. Here we're going to read our inputs. So first input we're going to call as inp1. Here this dot get view dot by id. So this id we already defined this input. So id inp1. So this value, then this input having that value property. So we're going to read that value. Dot set and get value, then same step we can do for input 2. So to input value we dynamically get and pass this function. So now whatever input we given in the input 1 and input 2, it's add, and this output it will return this value addition function. Okay, so next we get that value right from the input. Similarly, if we use that set method, then we can easily simply set our value. Here instead of console log, we just use this dot get view dot by id dot set value. So this value simply this out variable. Okay, just clear this log and check the id out, just copy and put here. Okay, save and go to function, just refresh. Now just giving a value 1 and 1, click add. Oh, I think it's 1 and 1, it returned 2, but instead of 2 it's adding it's concatenate, it's doing some concatenate instead of adding. So this input we need to define, it's a number. uh, okay, wait a second. Go to SAPUI5 SDK and click this input, check the type, data type, constructor. In the bottom we have the property. Click this show borrowed properties also, editable true, field width, a name, record, selected key. Okay, type. So it's a default input type is, it's a text. Okay, so just copy this property and go to our XML view, and here put type. So if you don't know what are the types are present in the input, just click this input type. Now you can see lot of types, so don't use deprecated types. Email, number, so this number we can use. Type number, so whatever value you given, then it's automatically converted to number. And this return also it's number. Now just refresh, give 1 and 1, sorry, 1, add. So now also it's written 11. Okay, wait, put debugger. So in this debugger we easily figure out what type of value it's written. 1 and 1. Now this A value is a 1 and B value is a 1. Go to console, A dot, data type, A dot, okay, forget the type view. Okay, true string is there. Actually this value is A and B, and A plus B, it's written 11. So if you give this value like 1 and B is equal to 1, then A plus B is a 2. So this is act as a string, that's why it's concatenate. Okay, so this number Let return number. Okay. Wait, we check in JS number, string to number, string to number. Okay, we can use number keyword. A number on A. If we put, then it's converted to number. So here we can use number. Okay, we use this number method to convert our string to integer number. Okay, just refresh. This time it giving output true. Okay, now our function it's working. So our value, dynamic value with arguments, it's working perfectly. So next we're going to discuss about scope, local scope and global scope. If you notice here, it's a totally two different functions we are using. So each function having that own variables. We can to access this out or this input one or in inp2 this variable inside these functions, because these variables are local scope. If we define outside the local, it's outside the function, then it's act as a global scope. For example, if you define any of the value here, like var input 1 unexpected token error. I think we can define input so it's why it's okay. So in the outside we can define like, so we don't need to tell it's a variable. So for example, if you define this is a 1, if you call this function, that time console.log this dot input. So actually in the outside we have that one variable, right? This is a global scope variable. So this global scope variable we can use inside the functions, but inside if you define any variable, this variable we can to use outside the functions. I just giving a demo. It's outside. I just defining a one variable input and value 1. While calling this function, we're going to log this value. Just refresh. Press F12, clear this console, and give the value 1 and 2 and add. Now if you see, it's 1, it's printing here. So this 1 is written by this input. So no console log we have in the controller, only one console log. So this log comes from this input. So now you understand that scope of variables. Now next topic, like we already discussed about that functions with arguments. Now if that any arguments missing, then we can use some default value. For example, now we have that two arguments. While calling this function, we given right dynamically. So if any one of the values missing, then we need to use some default value. So how we can use this default value? It's very simple. Your definition, function definition, you just giving a equal and giving a value like 5. Any of the input it's fail, okay, A and B, if any input it's fail, then this 5 it will pass to this value, this parameter. If that value is present while calling this function, then this 5 value it's replaced by your input value. I show you. Why it's giving an error? Okay, just check. Clear. And now I giving a input 1 and I never giving a value 2. So 1 plus 5, it need to print as 6. Okay, I think it's failed, but no error also it's found. Actually this default parameter value, so it's not working properly here. I think native JavaScript function having that option, but now I giving some workaround for this one. Okay, so instead of defining some values here, just remove this value and check if the value is present, then it's written. We don't need to change anything. But if the value is not there, then we're going to giving a value 5, default default value we can giving a 5. Similarly, we're going to add B also. Just give like, then refresh. So here if you check like this, A and B, if the value is present, then only it will go. If you use that exclamatory symbol before the variable, it's act as a not value is present, then only this block is execute. Okay, now just refresh. Now giving a one input and click add. Now you see it's a 6. So instead of default value, now we know that some workaround for this ones. Now it's a final step. It's a function with the return. So it's very simple concept. So we need to use return keyword. So instead of output defining in the function, just cut and put inside the add function. So this is our function calling place, right? Just remove. Just giving a command user input. Okay, and here our function call. After this we need to use return. So return out. So this variable we return. So we need to store this out variable in the add function. So we're going to store our value in the out. So this add function, I'm going to define another variable called out. So this function returning a value, and we store this output value in the add function. So this value now we're going to set. It's a very simple concept. Instead of using set value in the function, we just simply add functions. Just save and refresh. Now give that value, it's a 2, and click that add. Now it's 7. So our functionality it's never changing. But if you notice, whenever it's a return out, this value stored here. I just putting some console.log and out, then giving a value 2 and press F12 and play this console and click this add button. Now you see it's a 7, it's printing. So this 7 comes from this function output. This function output we can store if you use this return keyword. Okay, so I think now you understand function basics. So next video we're going to discuss about some advanced concept like callback, promises, and async and wait, these topics. Okay, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification for my future videos. Thank you. Bye.